1 Samuel chapter 4. This will be a little controversial. I would suggest you shut it off right now and go do something else. I've been on this all day, brother. I'm fired up. The word of Samuel came to all Israel. Remember, Samuel was the young kid. His mother said she couldn't have a baby and said, Lord, if you give me a baby, I'll give him back to you. And so she had Samuel and took him to the temple when he's 3 or 4 years old. And he grew up in the temple, helping Eli, the old fat priest, basically, no kind way to say it, and his 2 wicked sons. We'll see in a minute what happened to them. So Samuel is growing up in a really bad environment. Some people have really bad families to grow up in. I'm sorry, your mom's wicked, your dad's wicked, your brothers are wicked. There's no kind way to say it. What do you do about it? Well, you serve God anyway. You can serve God anywhere. Quit blaming everybody else for your problems. Samuel said, I'm going to live for God. I don't care what Hophni and Phinehas do, and it doesn't matter. I'm serving God. Anyway, now the Israel went out against the Philistines to battle and pitched beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines pitched in Aphek. Now, who on earth are the Philistines anyway? Very interesting history here that's going to take just a few minutes, and you're going to say, oh, no, that applies to me. Oh, yeah. In Judges, way back in the book of Judges, the lords of the Philistines gathered them together to offer a great sacrifice unto Dagon, their god. The Philistines were a bunch of folks that served a pagan god called Dagon, and to rejoice. And they said, our God hath delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hand. Well, we'll talk about Samson in a minute, but the god Dagon that they worshiped was half human, half fish. They taught a type of evolution way back then. There have always been stupid people who believe they came from a rock. Dagon was the god of fertility and crops. He figured prominently in the Philistine concepts of death and the afterlife. In addition to his role in the religion of the Philistines, Dagon was worshipped in the more general society of the Canaanite people. Okay. Back in Genesis chapter 15, a long time before all this story we're going to get into, the Lord said to Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. God is telling Abram about the future. Your descendants are going to go to a strange land. They're going to be captive. Talking about the time Jews went to Egypt, okay? And shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. And afterward they shall come out with great substance. Did that happen when the children of Israel left Egypt? Remember the last plague? The Lord told Moses, tell all the people to go borrow all the gold and silver from their neighbors, their Egyptians. And the Egyptians were so glad to get rid of them. Here, take this necklace. Here, take my watch, or whatever they had, okay? And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. God said, Abram, your children are going to be slaves in Egypt. Not, he didn't tell them Egypt, it turned out to be Egypt, for 400 years, or afflicted for 400 years. There's a little interesting story there. But when they come out, they're going to come out with a bunch of money. But I can't let them come back into this promised land yet, because the Ammonites who are living there, I'm giving them a little more time to repent. The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Interesting. God is really patient. If you got sin in your life, God will be patient for a long time. And then all of a sudden, he's had enough. You're done. Right? How many of you dads understand that with the kids? Okay, kid, that's enough. You're done. That was the last time. Okay? And it came to pass, when the sun went down, it was dark. Behold, a smoking furnace and burning lamp that passed between those pieces. The same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land. What land? From the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. You know the promised land, the land that was promised to Abram, is right there. From the Nile to the Euphrates River. Israel has never possessed that much land, but that's the land God promised to them. Why didn't they get it all? Well, that ties into the story tonight. Noah's son Ham was apparently inclined to feed the flesh more than anything else. The Hamites, one of their descendants, one of Ham's children was I forget how it ties in exactly, Ammonites anyway. The Ammonites went from where the Noah's Ark landed in what today is the country of Turkey, over and lived in what today is the country of Israel. So the Ammonites and the Canaanites and the electric lights and all them white boys, they all lived over there, and they all were wicked. And God was giving them hundreds of years to repent. He would send prophets in there, and they would stone them and kill them and all kinds of stuff. So in Numbers 33, finally, the Lord said, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan, right there, the land of Canaan, bottom left corner, when you come over the Jordan and get into that land, then ye shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you. Instructions pretty clear. Moses, when you're going to die before you go in because you disobeyed me, but your buddy Joshua was taken over. When you go into that land, drive them all out. You say, that's mean. Oh, no, God's been patient for 400 years with these folks, okay? It's not mean. It's needed, okay? Drive them all out and destroy all their pictures and destroy all their molten images, the statues that they worship, and quite pluck down all their high places. That would be the places where they go worship. Tear them down. And ye shall dispossess the inhabitants of the land. Kick them all out. If they won't leave, you kill them. And dwell there, for I have given you the land to possess it. God, after being patient for 400 years, said, Joshua, go in there, tell them all, get out of here. If you don't get out of here, we're going to make you get out. If you don't want to get out, we're going to have to kill you. Take over all of them. Command was very clear, okay? Joshua chapter 1. Joshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the host and command the people, saying, prepare you victuals. That's pronounced victuals, by the way. For within 3 days ye shall pass over this Jordan to go in to possess the land, which the Lord your God giveth you to possess it. Commandment pretty clear? Well, Joshua took the people in there, and they conquered all the pink area. They didn't quite conquer all of it. In 1300 BC, all those heathen nations should have been driven out of the land. Joshua took over for Moses, had a clear command, go fix the problem. Didn't quite do it. Then you get, after the book of Joshua, which goes for 24 chapters, you come to the book of Judges. They didn't have a king for a while, 350 years. They had judges that ruled over them, 11 different judges. And the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites that inhabited Jerusalem. But the Jebusites dwell with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem unto this day. They didn't get rid of them. Neither did Manasseh drive out the inhabitants of Bethshean and her towns, nor Tanakh, nor her towns, nor the inhabitants of Dor, nor the inhabitants of these other places. But the Canaanites would dwell in the land. They tolerated some of these wicked people to stay there amongst them. There's a sermon coming here. Hang on, okay? Neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites. Neither did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants. Neither did Asher drive out. But the Asherites dwell among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, for they did not drive them out. Neither did Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Bethshemesh. The whole book of Judges is the story of how they didn't quite do the job they should have done. Came back and haunted them hundreds of years later. Judges chapter 2. The angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochum and said, I made you to go up out of Egypt and brought you unto the land which I swear to your fathers. And I said, I will never break my covenant with you. And ye shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land. Ye shall throw down their altars, but ye have not obeyed my voice. Why have ye done this? Why didn't you do what I told you to do? You're going to have trouble now for a long time because you didn't quite obey what I told you to do. Wherefore I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be thorns in your side, and their gods shall be a snare unto you. As they took over the land, they missed a spot called Philistia. Guess who came from Philistia? The Philistines. They didn't quite drive the people out of that area, the Philistines. Philistines are mentioned 28 times in the Bible. Just type in Philistine. So about 200 years after God told them to move in there, drive everybody out, Samuel comes along. Now he is living with this very same problem, the Philistines, because his ancestors 200 years earlier didn't quite do the job. I think we are living with some problems in our country because people 40 years ago and 80 years ago and 200 years ago didn't quite do what they should have done. Let's see, the Philistines. There's the land of the Philistia. These cities, Ekron, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza, Raphia, and Gath. How many have ever heard of Gath? Gath, one of the cities of the Philistines. Let's see, in Joshua chapter 11. At that time came Joshua and cut off the Anakims from the mountains, from Hebron and Debir and Anam, and from all the mountains of Judah, from the mountains of Israel. Joshua destroyed them utterly with their cities. There was none of the Anakims left in the land of the children of Israel, only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod there remained. Joshua, you didn't quite finish the job, did you? Should have wiped out the folks in Gath. Well, 100 years later, guess who shows up from Gath? And the Philistines stood on a mountain on one side, and Israel on the mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath. Gath should have been destroyed. Goliath never should have been born. Never should have been born. You may be facing a problem or a temptation or a trial in your life because of something you didn't conquer a long time ago, and you should have. Yeah. Hebrews 12. Wherefore, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us. There might be some little sin in your life that you tolerated 20 years ago. Now it's getting back to you, eating at you. Children of Israel did not completely drive out the bad guys, as they were told to about 1300 BC. This came back to haunt them over the next 3,300 years and still haunts them today. They're in the news almost every day from not doing the job 3,300 years ago. Think about that for just a minute. Christians often do not drive out sin from their life. They tolerate little sins in their heart. This comes back to haunt them later. Genesis 19. When the morning arose, the angels hastened Lot. They're going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. They said, Lot, get out of town, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. While he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife and upon the hand of his two daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth, dragged him out, and set him outside the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold now, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight. Thou hast magnified thy mercy. Thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. You'll see later, he did go to the mountain with his daughters and lived in a cave. Another long, sad story there. Behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. Here's Lot talking to the angels, saying, look, would you just let me go to this? It's just a little city. Just spare this one city. Just one more drink. How many people have destroyed their life because they just one more? Just one more. It's just a little one. Just a little. How about just a little weed? Let's just smoke a little weed. Let's just get a habit. Hey, when you're 12, 14, 16 years old, the neighbor kids, hey, kid, I'll smoke just a little weed. Come on. Not going to hurt. It's just a little bag of crystal meth. Just here. Take this, okay? Just a little shot in the arm. Get high. After smoking marijuana just once, his life and career was ruined. Let's see. This is what happened in how many months before and after from taking drugs? It always starts with one, doesn't it? Just one. Just a little one. I'm just going to tolerate a little bit of sin in my life. Okay. From January 08 to August of 08, I think that lady's messed up. Before and after. There's a tombstone. Killed by Indians, 32 years old. What? Age 28. Another guy. Two of them buried together there, I guess, okay? Kelby, 19 years old. Killed by drugs. Heroin kills 162 people a day. People tolerate just a little bit of sin, and pretty soon it consumes them. They allowed the people of Gath to live there, and now the Philistines are going to fight the nation of Israel again. Many wars were fought. Many tens of thousands of people were killed because they didn't wipe out the people from Philistia. David had to live with the Philistines, the Sidonians, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Edomites. They lived right among them in David's kingdom. They lived, and you can read the whole book of 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, and see these guys caused problems all the time. They had a pagan philosophy about how to worship God. They didn't have the right God. They were pagan. And the children of Israel, they lived among the children. And you might have a Christian kid you're trying to raise next door to a neighbor kid who's a pagan. How many know what I'm talking about? And you might have to say, no, sorry, no, don't do that. Yeah, but Johnny does it next door. And when you raise your family among the pagans like this, you're going to create some problems. That's why I like Dinosaur Adventureland. It's a great place to raise kids, okay? God's system is clear. But the Philistines lived in that land for a long time. From the 12th century to 600 BC. So for about 600 years, until finally another pagan king, Nebuchadnezzar, came in there and wiped them out, they were the thorn in the side, like God said would happen, to the Israelites. There was a famous Jewish warrior named Samson who got deceived by a woman. Guess what nationality she was? Philistine. Yeah. Hey, Samson, come with me. Samson, when she gave him a haircut, don't ever go to a Philistine barber. This problem never would have happened if they'd done the job 300 years earlier. Samson was blinded by the Philistines, and he died bringing down one of their temples to their false god, Dagon. Goliath never would have been born if they had obeyed God 300 years earlier. Never would have happened. Check the news. Israel-Palestinian conflict. These yellow spots are the spots that even today Israel does not have complete control over. The Palestinians, now the Palestinians, there's arguments about, are they the descendants of the Philistines? I don't know. I can't prove they are or aren't. Some people say, oh, they're not. Other people say, yes, they are. I don't care. They're people in the land that was supposed to be all given to Israel a long time ago, given to Abraham, 2000 BC. How much problems in the news now about the Palestinian conflict and blowing up buildings and burning stuff down, and it's just constant. These are people killed from 2000 to 2007, Israelis and Palestinians in the fighting all the time. Let's see. How many have ever heard of the Gaza Strip? Guess what that is? Same spot where the Philistines lived. Same spot. Anyway, Numbers 33. Speak to the children of Israel when you pass over the Jordan into the land, drive out all the inhabitants, and they didn't do it. Anyway, what little sins are you being tempted with? Just a little one. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. God is faithful, who will not suffer you, Old English word, he won't allow you, to be tempted above that ye are able. God says, I will make sure you're never tempted more than you can stand. Now, the devil may push you right up to the line, but you step over the line. The devil's trying to tempt you to do something, and the Lord says, stop right there. Now you got a choice. Should I get that beer? You make the choice, and you know it. You even know it when you do it. Just one more beer, just a little drop of alcohol, just a little taste. Yeah, okay. Just one more cigarette. Okay. 1 Samuel 4. And the Philistines set themselves in array against Israel. And when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines, and they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. By an army that shouldn't even exist. Sad. Moses said, if you do this thing, I will go armed before you to war, and with all of you armed over Jordan, until he hath driven out his enemies. God said, if you'll do it, I'll go with you and make sure you drive them all out. They could have done it. God was with them. Didn't do it. And the land be subdued before the Lord. Then afterward you shall return and be guiltless before the Lord and before Israel, and this land shall be your possession before the Lord. But if you will not do so, behold, ye have sinned against the Lord. Be sure your sin will find you out. and your sin will find you out. It kept finding out the children of Israel for 3,300 years. Still going today. Watch the news. It'll be in there tomorrow for something. They're always shooting somebody or doing something over there. They didn't quite obey, did they? 3,300 years ago. Anyway, back to 1 Samuel. And when the people were coming to the camp, so after the battle, 4,000 men died, they all go back to their camp. The elders of Israel said, "Wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Why did God let this happen? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us." Oh, that's brilliant. Let's go get that gold box, about half the size of this desk. That'll save us. That when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hand of our enemies. So the people sent to Shiloh, that they might bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth between the cherubim. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And when the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth rang again. They are so excited. Whoa, we got the power of God among us. We got this gold box. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, "What meaneth the noise of the shout in the camp of the Hebrews?" And they understood the ark of the Lord was come into the camp. How many people are doing this same stupid thing today? Boy, if you drink water from or grape juice or wine from the Holy Grail, it will give you special powers. If you pray with these special beads, you have a special connection with God. Hail Mary, full of grapes, swinging beads all over the place. Swing them high, swing them low. Come on, Mary, go, go, go. How about if you put holy oil on your head? You get a special blessing from God. Only $59.99 per ounce from this company if you want to buy special holy oil. Holy oil for healing. Whoa. If you put a drop of this on your head, it'll heal any disease. You really think that? Okay. Does wearing pretty robes and a big hat make you have a special connection with God? Some people think so. They really do. We're bringing a gold-plated box into the army, guarantee victory over the enemy. No, guys. Okay. Anyway, and the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "God is come into the camp." And they said, "Woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us! Who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues of the wilderness. Be strong and quit yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men and fight." And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten. And they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, and there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. First day they lost 4,000. Let's bring the box in here. And then they lost 30,000. And the ark of God was taken. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent and with earth upon his head. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart was trembled for the ark of God. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. And when Eli heard the noise of the cry, he said, "What meaneth the noise of this tumult?" And the man came in hastily and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. He's going blind. And the man said to Eli, "I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army." And he said, "What is there done, my son?" And the messenger answered and said, "Israel is fled before the Philistines. There hath been a great slaughter among the people, and thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God is taken." And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off the seat backwards by the side of the gate, and his neck brake, and he died. He was an old man and heavy, and he judged Israel 40 years. What a sad story. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. And about the time of her death, she died giving childbirth. The women that stood by her said to her, "Fear not, thou hast borne a son." But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, "The glory is departed from Israel." because the ark of God was taken, and because her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, the glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. End of chapter 4. Sad story. How many people today making the same mistakes? Same mistakes. Just one more cigarette. Just one more drink of alcohol. Just one more hit of marijuana. What is it? Just tolerate a little sin. Anyway, I think our country has tolerated enough. That's enough. Let's go back to obey the law.